So, what's up people and welcome to the Mission 104 discussion of Spy Family. So Mission 104 came out about a week ago, and as always I will leave a link to this mission that's currently being shown on the publisher's official website, Manga Plus, for free to the North American audience. So if you're interested, we'll go take a look at it before they pull this mission back. Okay, so before I do anything, I do want to apologize for the delay in bringing out this video. I've been out on a business trip for a whole week, and so I had to leave before this mission came out. And because of that, I wasn't able to make a video on it until now. And so once again, I apologize for that. But anyway, let's keep on going. So Mission 104, if you recall, starting from Mission 103, I think Tatsuya Endo was starting to make sure that he gave all of his fans the entertainment that they deserved. And so because there was such a long backstory, which was very interesting for people like myself and people who were interested in the lore or looking at the other characters, but it did get in the way of many of the people who were interested more in the core characters. And so in Mission 103, we saw that Tatsuya Endo focused back on the Forger family, with focus on Anya, Yor, and Lloyd, and even Becky. But of course, there was one character that many of the fans still missed, and of course that was Damian. And so for many of the Damian Anya ship fans, the last mission was not really all too satisfying in that respect. And so you could see that Tatsuya Endo is continuing to try to make sure that there's fan service for all the fans. And so this chapter focuses around Damian. And although it mostly focuses around Damian and his two bro-mates, Ewan and Emil, it does give a little bit of a win towards even the Damiania ship fans. And so the chapter begins with Damian, Emil, and Ewan in the school library studying. And what we see is, although Damian is very much a study-holic, Ewan and Emil are not, and so they are complaining about how much time is put into this studying, which upsets Damian because he does want to continue to learn and do better. And the topic he is studying at the moment is history, and if you recall, that is the topic that he did win a Stella for. And so you could see why he is continuing to want to study to ensure that he could keep hold of that Stella Star. But for Emil and Ewan, it is a distraction and it takes Damian quite a bit of convincing that history is actually quite useful. And this chapter turns out to be very much a Indiana Jones type of chapter, along with it coming back to being the bromance sort of chapter between these three people. And Damian starts explaining that history is so interesting because there are things such as ancient ruins and treasure that may be hidden from the public in the areas nearby. And so studying about this is quite interesting. And the librarian agrees with Damian and in fact says that for a while, many people in Ostania got very interested in adventuring and looking for these ancient relics. And this is because during the war, because the military was taking so much photographs of the geography, they found some ruins that they never knew previously. And so this tempted a lot of people after the war to look into this. Now, going on an adventure was something even Damian thought was stupid until, the librarian said a previous student who went on this adventure found a discovery that was not known previously, and because of that, won the Stella Star. And immediately you see Damian with his two cohorts going on an adventure. Now, you see them wearing their safari gear, and they are definitely all ready to get into nature, but their idea of getting into nature is having their personal butlers follow them into the ruins. They are living in a different world from the rest of us. And for once, we get to meet the butlers of these three boys. We did see Jeev in the previous chapter when he was talking to Damian, but this chapter really went into the personalities of the butlers, especially Jeev. And you could see once again that they are going into an adventure, but while they are doing that, of course, the butlers are acting as bodyguards as well and protecting them from any hostile situation. And the kids, well, you have to remember that they are kids. They're elementary school children. And so although they are all into adventuring, they have no idea what they're doing. And they read some of the history books and they find out that the previous discoveries were found during the spring equinox when certain landmarks were shown to align. But now that it is autumn, that information turns out to be not all that useful. And so the children just figure out, well, let's do whatever we can and go off on their crazy way. And it's at this point that we see that despite all the weirdness and craziness that the kids are doing, and although the butlers are kind of tired of having to support them, you see the character of Jeeves saying, it is our duty to make sure that the children do succeed as much as possible, so we should continue to support them as much as we can. And you start seeing that the butlers for the children are equally as empathic as Martha is for Becky. And you see some very wholesome scenes of the butlers supporting them as they continue to go on this adventure, which is quite a bit of an adventure for such young boys. And similar to Martha, you see that Jeeves actually has some fighting skill as he takes out a venomous snake that was about to attack Damian. And you find out that despite the adventure nature that Damian has, that really is on the surface and more deeply, he is actually very upset at having to survive within this hostile environment. Even insects start upsetting him. And because Damian gets so upset, Ewan and Emil starts asking Damian, do you want to go home? And Damian, although you could tell that he really does want to go home, says he cannot go back because they haven't found anything. He will not put down the Desmond name by not finding anything during this adventure. And during this time, you see Jeeves silently watching him, and you realize that he has seen this before. The sheer desire for Damian to want to be accepted by the family, the sheer responsibility that Damian holds to not embarrass the family, and the burdens that weigh on him are not unnoticed by Jeeves. And this does show once again this empathic, wholesome nature between the child and his butler. And similar to Martha and Becky, there is this bonding that they have. It's kind of silent. They don't really bring it up between each other, but you understand that Jeeves does want to support Damian all he can. And so what he mentions is maybe we should have some dinner to make Damian feel better. And you find out that despite they are in the middle of the forest, these three butlers are well equipped to give them some Michelin star level food. And the three start arguing about the fact that they have not seen any clues with regards to any treasure or ruins. And they start wondering maybe it is wiser to go back. And of course, Damian being Damian is saying no, even if they have to stay out for extended periods of time, he will continue to do so, which of course, for many adventurers, is a mistake that they often do when they go well beyond what they're equipped for. And so Jeeves, understanding the situation, says that if you are going to be a leader in the future, then you do have to listen to the voices below you, which turns out to be a very wise comment, but at the same time is extremely comical because Ewan and Emil take that as an insult. And so as a last-ditch effort, Damian starts thinking, well, if I was to put myself in the place of the great adventurer, the king of antiquity, what would that person do? For some reason, he gets into a trance and says that he has become the king of antiquity. Yeah, he's as much a king of antiquity as King from One Punch Man is overpowerful, omnipotent being. Yeah, now I'm gonna get flack from many of the King fans who are saying, what are you talking about? Of course he is an omnipotent being, right? But in any case, this continues to go, and you see this wise, seasoned character that is the king of antiquity moving forward confidently to find the treasure. That is until a spider falls on his shoulder. And we have some really comedic moments where Ewan and Emil are sitting there going, oh my god, the king of antiquity is doing a ancient ritual dance. And Damian is like, get me out of here, you know? And it is at that point that all of a sudden they come upon this really interesting plant. This huge plant that they've never seen before. And they're like, oh my god, we just discovered a new species. We're about to get a stellar star for sure. But it turns out from the butler that this is a flower that's already been discovered. It's called the world's largest flower, and it's called a geshokran, or a witch's crib. Now, just to make sure, I kind of took a look into Google, and there is no such thing as a geshokran or a witch's crib, at least in this world. And so I guess this is something Tatsuya Endo made up, although it does look like a lot of the large flowers that you see in this world. So now Damian is disappointed. This isn't going to be a Stella. But at the same time, Jeeves says that, well, despite it not being a new discovery, it is a very large, impressive plant, and I think Eden College will be appreciative of the photos that you take here. And so now it's night, and we find out that not only have they come with their butler, but each one of these kids has their own personal helicopter that flew them in. And so we kind of get to realize just how well-to-do these three children are. And there's some very comedic and very wholesome conversation that goes on between Jeeves and Damian with regards to him and his family. And you realize just how caring Jeeves is for Damian and how much he looks after him by mentioning to the family things that even Damian doesn't realize to support Damian. And Damian starts complaining that Jeeves is too much a worrywart and worry about the weirdest things. And he starts mentioning that it's not like he is avoiding his family or anything. And Jeeves starts teasing him, saying, oh, well, if that's the case, then should I call your mother so that she can make dinner for you again? In which case, of course, the very prideful Damian goes, you leave me alone and you leave my mother alone. And there's some other comedic discussions that they have with regards to Damian's brother Demetrius. But in the end, Damian gets so worried that he starts asking Jeeves, have you been talking to my mother behind my back? In which case, Jeeves answers, about what? And Damian starts saying, well, you know, things like that forger girl and stuff. And once again, Jeeves responds with a teasing remark saying, oh, are you talking about that intimate dance that you had with the forger girl at the end of the term party? Or how much you agonized over the clothing that you were going to wear to that party? And Damian easily falls for the trick and says, you didn't tell my mom about that, did you? In which case, eventually, the pilot even starts complaining about how their loud voice is getting in the way of his piloting. And so this was a very nice chapter. If the previous arc gave us a lot more in-depth understanding of Martha, this one gave a very short introduction of Jeeves. And I thought that this was very good. I really like Jeeves. He seems to be the perfect balance between support and teasing Damian, considering Damian is such a prideful boy, right? And for, of course, the Damiania ship fans, they do get a very small win because we do realize just how much Damian thought over what he needed to wear for the occasion and how he thought about the dance he had with Anya. And it's interesting that Jeeves teased Damian by using the word intimate more than the word romantic, taking it one notch higher, which probably embarrassed Damian even more. So this was a very funny chapter. It was a wholesome chapter. I would say that it's not quite as wholesome as the previous Damian, Emil, Ewan trip, but it was very enjoyable and lighthearted, and probably was well received considering just how dark the previous arc was. And so, yeah, I think this was good, and this gave an overall support towards many of the fans, the Damian fans, the Anya, Yor, and Lloyd fans from the previous mission, and of course the Martha Henry fans from the previous arc. And so, yeah, you could see that Tatsuya Endo's doing whatever he can to make sure that the various different types of fans receive entertainment and support from the story. And so good job, Tatsuya Endo, and looking forward to seeing what you do in Mission 105, and when that comes out, I'll bring out another video. But this is the Mission 104 discussion of Spy Family. If you read it, what you think about it, any comments will be greatly appreciated. And until the next episode, happy manga reading, and as always, Jaya, nice day everyone.